Welcome to the Condor DM show. And here with me today, I have legendary OSR game designer James Raggi right beside me. Welcome to the show there, James Raggi.
Hello, James Raggi, but
Reggie.
otherwise that works.
Otherwise, yeah, I've heard some people say it a bit differently, but fair enough. That's totally
Yeah,
that's you.
like life, it's normal.
Okay, so you are from Greenwich, Connecticut. Your
Originally,
first, yeah, one of your first introductions that you can remember. You said you were into it before this, but you can remember the Conan comics as sort of a lead-in to your introduction to really getting into fantasy.
yeah,
In 1984, your mother came to you about being interested in painting miniatures, something that was popular in the 80s, very popular hobby at the time. Uh, it leads you to encountering the endless quest books and then keep on the borderlands. That led you to trying D&D without any rules. But it didn't stop there. At one point, you run into Frank Metzner's Rig Box, and then we end that little journey with mazes and monsters. Be careful, Jimmy. So here's the first question of the interview. You finally start playing Dungeons and Dragons for real with the Rig Box, right? So tell me about your experience there, and what other games did that lead you to after encountering Dungeons and Dragons?
um, this is over 30, over 40 years ago now. So I just remember I was a stupid kid doing stupid things, and I don't remember being any good at anything as far as playing the game.
Yeah.
I just remember all the stupid things I used to do, like having DM NPCs. Like you only have two people playing the game, and they each have a character. Well, you need more than one character. So
Mm.
I remember. I don't remember the character's name, but it was basically in a humanoid snake. Sorry, two
It's all right. It's all right.
words. A humanoid furry snake wearing a trench coat and a fedora, like an old noir detective. And this was a DM NPC I was putting in the party when they were doing In Search of the Unknown, I think. And it's just like stupid kid stuff because I started when I was 9. I didn't know anything.
I started when I was 7, so I know exactly what you're going through there.
Um, and we're doing as far as other games that led to Marvel Superheroes was another one real early on.
That's a great game.
And then I would try to make my own role playing games based on the computer games at the time, like trying to adapt the Wizard's Crown Eternal Dagger computer game and trying to turn those stats and skill system into a tabletop role playing game, which is just why am I doing this?
So you were instinctively creative. It definitely bit the creative bug in you to run these games.
Yeah,
That's
I would have
awesome.
notebooks. I would have notebooks and notebooks full of I would draw like a cover in the style of TSR Adventures with
Mhm.
like the little window that's got an illustration and there's the name and there's the description. And then I draw a dungeon map and wish I still had all that stuff, but it was a lot of stuff that never got really fleshed out. But here's a concept and here's a map. Oh, and here's another concept. Here's another map. And that's embarrassingly continued on to the present day. You should see my folders of concepts and started things that have like a page or two concept that never went forward any further. It's like, hey, do I want to publish this? Hey, oh, what's that shiny thing?
Which I totally get it. It's like you run to something you didn't even know existed, and then you realize you can do 50 million things with this thing, but you're just like you're still at that starting point where it's all like sort of bad ideas right now, but they're ideas. You're ready to start creating. Well,
Like I got like I
yeah.
and then there would be strange connections. Like I like the Ultima computer games, and then the same company put out Auto Duel. Now, and then there was a GURPS Auto Duel, and it's like, oh, this is based on Car Wars, so you get Car Wars, but GURPS Auto Duel is also GURPS. So then you're going two ways that way. It's like, oh, GURPS is this whole thing. And, yeah, because for a long time, it's like I didn't get into things because friends of mine were into things, and so then I would learn about it.
Mhm.
It was like my mother wanted to paint minis, so that's how I got into Dungeons and Dragons, and I had to find out everything about it on my own. Same thing with everything, like computer game. Well, I had a friend that also I had an Apple, he had a Commodore, so that but he'd get games and I'd think, oh, that's neat, and I'd get games and I'd think, oh, that's neat, but it's like everything I'd get into is like my mother helped with horror movies, but otherwise, there was no friend group that I was in that would help me with stuff. I was the person that would then introduce things to anyone I happened to meet. And then whoever was interested in the things I was interested in becomes part of my friend group. There was no very insular, very not social in a proper sense, I guess you can say. But then that again has continued to the present day.
Well, I tell a lot of people that I met in the hobby that have these home groups with built in like friends and family and everything. I said, I'm a public game master, and what I discovered early on in my experience with the hobby was there was more people like yourself, actually, like people that didn't have a built-in friend group or built-in like family ready to play with them. Like they would come out, and if it wasn't for a guy like me there to break the ice with them, there's so many guys I met from libraries to school to different gaming groups that it's just like they depended. And I found there was more of them than any of the home groups. So I'm not shocked at your history there. It's a lot of people came into the hobby finding it the way I think you sort of did, which is like from with somebody looking into it, and they go look into it, and they're ready to play it, and they have to introduce it. Uh, okay, so that's your history. We get a sort of trip into the hobby, but that's not the only thing that you're into. Okay, heavy metal horror movie attitude,
There's
baby.
that.
I love that statement. Oh yeah. And so when did you first encounter heavy metal? Why do you love it? And was it always a major influence in what you created for the tabletop role playing game hobby?
No, it was not a major influence.
Okay.
I would say my first encounter with heavy metal was probably like as a kid. Again, my father was out of the house early. If he had stuck around, I probably would have learned more from him because later on I found he had like Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath albums. So
Beautiful.
I would have learned more from him if he had stuck around. But as it was, I think first the first tapes that I had my mother buy for me were Michael Jackson's Thriller and Weird Al Yankovic's in 3D because it had the Eat It, and the two together is like the Michael Jackson was because I was already into horror movies and the Thriller video.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Thriller's not heavy metal, but like Eddie Van Halen was on Beat It,
Yeah.
so there was elements, but then the Weird Al in 3D, the last song on that album, again, a horror movie connection, Nature Trail to Hell, which was effectively an 80s heavy metal song. And I like trolling people and pointing out that all of the avant garde advancements in the underground heavy metal scene
Mhm.
were like that was on this song already. Operatic vocals and screamed vocals and electric violin solos instead of a guitar solo. It's a song about chopping people up. Of course, obviously Weird Al likes that sort of thing, so it was a gentle parody, but it was still a parody of the slasher movie trend at the time. And you can tell that Weird Al likes that sort of thing legit because if you remember the movie UHF, uh, 89, I think, he's
Mhm.
got this thing with like the shop teacher who cuts off his finger and the blood spurting all over. You go, oh, her finger.
Mhm.
Phillips, is that the guy's name? Yeah, so he
Yeah.
likes. kind of humor and that kind of thing. But the thriller in the Nature Trail to Hell, it was like, okay, this is natural. And then I liked a bunch of things as a kid. I wasn't into metal, but like
You were
Fight
into
Riot.
wrestling and some
Yeah,
other things as well, yeah.
Fight Riot. I liked that at the time. The Metal Health album when that came out. Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. But to me, it wasn't because they were a certain thing. It was just one of a bunch of other things I liked. I mean, in the mid '80s, I had a Thompson Twins tape, which is about the furthest thing from heavy metal there can be.
Yeah.
So heavy metal really didn't become a thing for me, I think, until the summer of '92. Because in '91, summer '91, when Terminator 2 came out, Guns N' Roses had
Yeah.
that Iron song, and then right after that, Metallica's Enter Sandman video was big. And I liked those, but it wasn't, again, because they were the thing. But as I was graduating high school, I realized that all these other people are really into some sort of music. Like I was even into Run DMC in the '80s
Hmm.
because my mother loved Aerosmith in the '70s, and Run DMC did the Walk This Way cover that had Steven Tyler
Yeah.
and the guitar players, Joe Perry, or am I mixing with another? Anyway, uh, so it's like, okay, I got that tape, and so I'm listening to rap now too, but I decided, okay, I need to figure out what I like. I'm graduating high school. I need to figure out what I like. And the only way I knew how to do this was to watch MTV because they had themed shows. They had the
Yep.
alternative show, 120 minutes, Yo MTV Raps.
Yep.
They didn't have a jazz show or a classical show, or, should have, but that wasn't the target demographic they were after. But they also had Headbangers Ball. And so I'm watching Headbangers Ball. I was staying up at my grandmother's place. And at midnight, this poor woman I'm watching this, at midnight they had the triple thrash threat. And then there's Megadeth, then Slayer, and then Napalm Death. They showed a video. And the Megadeth, I'm like, oh, this is cool. It was Peace Cells. Slayer was War Ensemble. But Napalm
Mhm.
Death, the world keeps turning, and just the roar, the guttural vocal style, and then there's like, okay, my life's different now. Found it, found it.
That's some legendary stuff, my friend. That is
Yeah,
like legendary stuff right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember before I went off to school that fall, I actually got to see in the Citrus Bowl, I think is a stadium in Orlando, my first concert ever. 50,000 people, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Faith No More.
Oh wow, I'm jealous. That's honestly, I'm jealous of that right there. That's a beautiful thing. I got to see Metallica one time. I live in Canada. Some of the bands don't frequent here like they do in the States, some of the more legendary bands. So I get to see Metallica out under a tent.
Yeah, I
It's still
remember.
wild stuff, but still under a tent, right?
I remember the day tickets went on sale. My mom's boyfriend took me to get the tickets, and they had no clue because when we got to the record store, the ticket, I forget how it was set up, but you didn't do it online back in those days. When we got to the place early, and there was this huge line outside the store already before they opened. And
Mhm.
you were like, wow! And I had no clue that this was usual or unusual. But he should have been clued in the fact that it was a stadium show, that maybe there would be some demand for tickets. So I remember going to see that show, and heaven knows and then I also remember that, before going off to school, the big argument I had with my mother, that she would not take me to see Napalm Death, Carcass, Cathedral, and Brutal Truth. We're at a local club in Orlando. And that one, Metallica is on the radio at that point. Guns N' Roses is on the radio. They're on MTV. That's normal music.
Yeah, commercial.
Yes, and I guess she's familiar from the days with my father of Deep Purple. As I said, so it's like she understood hard rock, but this death metal stuff, whoa. she's hearing me listening to it, and it's just.
Yeah.
So I wasn't allowed to go to that show, and I was pissed because I had the money for the tickets, but I didn't have money for a taxi and the tickets.
You're a step away from getting to the concert.
Yeah, that's just trying to figure.
So you really got into death
And I'm
metal.
just thinking
Yeah.
to now, I was such a sheltered little nerd that I don't know what I would have made of that, of actually going to that show. But the idea now that like I didn't see Napalm Death for 2 more years. I didn't see Cathedral until 2002. This is 92 we're talking. I
Yeah.
saw Brutal Truth in 95, I think. Carcass I saw in 94, but they already changed and were touring with different. But the idea of seeing that tour at that time, I really wish I had that memory. The next
Yeah.
show I saw after that was after I got to Atlanta, I went to see Megadeth at the Fox Theater with Suicidal Tendencies opening.
Wow.
And then my first ever club show was February of 93. I was just looking through the listings in the creative loafing, like the alternative weekly newspaper thing, and I had all the music listings for all the clubs. And there's Cannibal Corpse. It's like, oh, I remember that name from the thanks lists in the Napalm Death albums. That's how I learned about new music then. I had no idea about magazines, let alone fanzines. And so it's like Cannibal Corpse, $5. And
Wow.
yeah, it was Cannibal Corpse Unleashed from Sweden and Epidemic, the one from California. I think that was the one. But yeah, these three bands touring, it was $5 to get in. It's like, holy shit. And I remember and I got there early, and I even do that to this day. I'm there before the doors open. I'm waiting to get in. But so I get in, so I'm right there up against the stage, having no clue what's going to happen. And like Epidemic, nobody knew who they were, so it was just like, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, cool, death metal. Then Unleashed comes out, and they have a more stripped down style, and Johnny, the singer, he gets this big horn, fills it with beer, and pours it on front. So there I am now covered in beer, and then Cannibal Corpse comes on, and like the crowd transforms. The crowd turns into something different because it starts with like the entire floor turns into a big mosh pit. There are like the stage divers and people coming up, and I'm just getting slammed from the back constantly. And up the and the big thing I remember is Chris Barnes announcing the one song. This next song, entrails ripped from a virgin's gut. R.I.P. or but it's like, oh, you can do that. And like at that show, being in the line, seeing all like the T-shirts and the artwork and the logos and everything for all these bands I'd never heard of, it was just like wow. And they were passing around like, have you seen the cover of the new Cannibal Corpse album? And it's the one where the one zombie is eating out a corpse. And
That's
it's
wild.
just it's like this is like horror movie squared because most of the movies you can get at the local rental store don't have things like that. Like one of the songs on the latest Cannibal Corpse album at the time was called Necropedophile. You're not getting that off the video store shelf. It's like, oh, this is a whole. It's like everything I knew of what was weird, and I was considered weird for liking, like Dawn of the Dead and all those things at that time. It's like, oh, now I'm really strange because
See, you felt you found a home with this stuff.
yeah, sort of,
Sort of.
sort of,
Yeah.
because a lot of the people that were into the stuff, like the people that were there. Again, I'm going to this show alone. I don't know anybody, and I don't think that many people were metal nerds. They were, just a little. See, this is just impressions from like 35 years ago now, 34 years ago now. They announce a song "fucked with a knife." It's like, okay, are they cheering because they think the song's cool, or are they a little too into what the song is about? I don't know. But
Are they
here's
there for the drugs and the rave, or are they there for the
yeah,
actual?
yeah. Like my hair hadn't grown that long yet, and I'm surrounded by absolute metal maniacs, and I'm not one of them yet. I don't go into the shows here in Finland. I don't know that I'm one of them now. It's just seeing how they interact with each other and how they behave at the show. It's different than my nature, but the music, like I don't listen to that kind of thing, that kind of like death metal, gory lyric stuff. I don't listen to that stuff now. But the stuff from back then that I listened to when it comes on is like, yeah. I remember I was at a party and
Hmm.
I wanted to throw on a movie and someone threw it on Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Yeah, and Cannibal Corpse is in that movie because Jim Carrey liked death metal. So they get to the part with Cannibal Corpse, and I'm like, I know them. And everyone else is thinking like this is a ha ha joke because the guy's just going. But they start the song, it's like that's Hammer Smashed Face. And I remember somebody, the person that owned the house was deaf, so the closed captions were on. And so they didn't have the lyrics when the guy was singing. It just said grr, grr, grr. And I was there like saying the lyrics, and people are looking at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
It's like being able to understand Kenny from South Park or something, where he's mumbling, but you've heard this so many times, you know exactly what this guy is saying word for word, even though people are hearing. You're like, no, he's saying something.
Yeah, yeah.
He's definitely saying something. Yeah, I know there was a recent band that I seen you cover, and you said like even some of the recent stuff that you really loved. I forget the name of the band, to be honest. I know you just covered it, just
Dark
probably
Throne.
about,
Dark Throne. I
yeah.
did. Yeah, yeah.
Are you,
That's a band that used to have a completely different aesthetic and sound, and I wasn't into it. But the stuff they've been doing the past 10, 15 years is great. It's yeah, it's exactly my thing as far as heavy. It's exactly my thing as far as heavy metal, even though it's not my overall favorite style these days. I tend to like things that are a mix of like death metal and jazzy prog kind of stuff
yeah.
because they'll have like, oh, here's a 20-minute song that twists and winds and has a bunch of quiet parts. So you just get lost in it.
Okay. Here we'll move. I hope we've covered that quite well, because I want to. People should know
I
this
can go
about you.
on for
Oh,
years.
I know you could, but it to me, it's like if people want to know who you are, this is definitely part of a side of you that's important to share.
Forget about knowing about me. Learn about all this stuff.
I know. Yep, nerd out
That's
on the
about
good heavy metal. I love the stuff too. There's some weird bands here in Canada. Like I'll give you a band to look up after you're done this, and you can look up their music called the Skinny Puppy.
okay. It's more of
Uh,
an electronic industrial thing, isn't it?
yeah, something in that vein. But they're definitely a little bit out there, and I think might be up your alley. I'm not
I
sure.
don't like electronic stuff too much.
They're a mix of like metal and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you got to check it out yourself. Fair enough, but they're definitely a Canadian band, so there's not too many out there Canadian bands that are still jumping around right now. That's one of the
Voivod.
only bands I know. Hmm?
Voivod.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Geez, I never. That's silly. I should have said something with that. But let's move on to this question: Fantasy fucking Vietnam. Fun
Okay.
host traps. Also, the random in generator. Tell us about Green Devil Face magazine and Fight On.
Okay. Green Devil Face was my idea of doing a zine early on, and every so often I put out another issue of it. It's not really a magazine. It's just like smaller compilation releases. People just submit some smaller things, and I smush them together, put them under the Green Devil Face name, and then that's that. Fight On. That's come back recently. I think that was an early effort in the OSR movement
Yeah.
of putting out a magazine where people can just contribute stuff. And I contributed to one or two issues, 2008, 2009,
Mhm.
just a few articles. Yeah.
The stuff that you did for those two magazines, was some of that like early work, or were you thinking about Lamentations of the Flame Princess when you were working on these magazines?
Yeah, yeah. There was one I had like Spells of Duvanku. That was the death cult that was behind the location in Death Frost Doom. It's like I had no place to put all this other stuff. So I was like, okay, just mash the spells together and that's an article.
No,
Okay. So
I just oh, go
so I
on.
wanted to participate because there was this thing happening, and it was before it was well, Death Frost Doom was after I was an official business, but like Fantasy fucking Vietnam and the first printing of the random esoteric creature generator for classic role playing games and their modern simulacra, like those were before I was an actual publisher. Those were like fan publications at first. So I was wanting to participate in this thing because I was around the message boards when the OSR was being formulated, when people were putting together Osric and Basic Fantasy. I wasn't involved. I was just an observer, but I was an observer then. I was there when it was happening. And then I think I was part of the second wave of publishers. But
So you started really coming in after it already sort of started, but you're still there early.
other
Like
people
you're
started.
seeing it.
I was one
Yeah,
of the observers of them starting it. Yeah.
yeah. Then you jumped in. I wasn't sure how much you had to say on that. Feel like that has to be said because some of that work is actually interesting, and I think people should go back and check out some of your writing back then. You could tell the end stuff. It just to me it shows a little bit of your thinking
Well,
right
back
away
then,
early before we hit.
well, back then, nothing had been formulated. I mean, there was still arguments about whether doing any of this OSR stuff was even legal. If Wizards of the Coast was going to sue us all into oblivion,
Yeah.
uh, it was kind of like a real underground kind of renegade thing. We hadn't become part of the wallpaper yet.
Yeah, were they going to mess with the OGL stuff? Was it going to be legal if you tried to make money off these products? Was that going to be a gimmick? Yeah, I remember the earliness about it when I was around Dragon's Foot forums, or the forum for Dragon's Foot because that was popular at the time, and they were talking about this OSR gimmick, and yeah, I mean that's what it was. But I
It's
definitely go on.
it's hilarious how quickly things started to divide. Because of course, like Dragon's Foot and the Knights and Knaves Alehouse message board, they were concerned with like the OSR and retro clones were for those people a way of preserving what D&D used to be.
Mhm.
Whereas, and this is a rough generalization, but then those of us that were paying attention to the blogs and starting our own blogs and not being on these message boards were like using the old D&D base as a springboard to start doing our own stuff, and that created a divide almost immediately.
I get the divide. One wants to just simply preserve and push forward the old thing, but you're saying no, there's a whole new market of new ideas, new adventures, new games, new concepts, all that can be built off these old rules. And
And I think they're
yeah,
both important. I think especially then because the old D&D rules were not in print. You could not buy them legally electronically.
yeah.
They were buried. I mean, you could pirate the old stuff, but nobody was promoting it. Nobody had an interest in doing so. So the people that were making the close retro clones and wanting to
Mhm.
say old D&D is good, and now there was a vehicle for which to promote that. So
Yeah.
especially at that time, that was necessary. That was very good that people were doing that, but other people were already doing that. So,
Yeah, you're not going to be able to reinvent the wheel. There's only so many things you could do with the rules. To the point, I sort of agree with you there. There's only so many ways to do D100 or D20 or something to a point where it's like it's okay to figure out what the base is and then start making new ideas. Like I like PC games where it's like W forward, this back, or there's some basic buttons that are all related to almost all the same games, but each one is different in their own very unique ways with like subtle changes and tweaks to the stuff that I was like,
well, the problem isn't the
yeah,
rules. The problem wasn't the limitations of the rules because, like,
yeah,
Lamentations today is still 99% those same rules. The idea was would this release have fit in with the TSR slate of releases from the late 70s, early 80s. That mentality more than anything else is what
Yeah.
I tried.
No, I like the idea of new ideas. So let's talk. Lamentation of the Flame Princess. Atmosphere is a big issue to you. You think it's more important than rolling dice. What kind of feel or
More important than
atmosphere
how you roll the dice.
or how you roll the dice? I
Yeah,
apologize.
what game system you use isn't as important as the atmosphere you're trying to create through the game.
Well, let's talk. What were you trying to get with Lamentations of the Flame Princess as far as atmosphere and feel
Well,
to that game?
at first, I didn't understand that I was moving away from the orthodox OSR. I was just like, okay, here's, like Death Frost Doom was just here's Evil Dead 2 and Night of the Living Dead applied to D&D. And apparently, that a lot of people had never considered that before or never encountered anything like that before. The idea that the point of this adventure is you're going to unleash a zombie apocalypse on your campaign. Not that you're trying to stop a zombie apocalypse, but the point of the adventure is pretty much this is happening in your campaign now.
Yeah.
That 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 seemed to be a new idea. I I don't know. There's something about it that people responded to, and
Oh,
then
but
it's suddenly like, oh God, I guess I got to do more of this.
when it comes to Death Frost Tomb, here's one of your statements. The first group suffered no casualties, but ran like hell. The second group suffered no casualties, but cut a deal most unwholesome in order to survive. And the third group lost 4 out of 8 characters before running like hell. I do consider those results a successful playtest and true to the literature and cinema that inspired it.
Yeah.
That has to do with Death Frost Doom. If you can go a little bit more in detail on Death Frost Doom, that was some great work.
Well, one of the favorite reviews I saw, in the period after it was first released, is that someone complained because the characters went up the mountain,
Mm.
explored the cabin, found the trap door that goes down into the dungeon, and decided, nope, we got no reason to go down there. We're going home. And the reviewer, I guess, if the person bought it and then the players didn't want to play it, I guess they've got reason for complaint. But they were like, there's no reason for the characters to go down there. And I'm thinking, well, there's really not a lot of reason. The reasons given to go do other adventures are usually perfunctory anyway. I was just thrilled that real life people were scared to bring their pretend people into the pretend place, which is because it would be too dangerous. That's the game. It's like my setup made people afraid for their fake people. They were afraid to play the game, and I was just yes,
I love
yeah,
the way you put that. I
did it.
love the way you put that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now you hear the debates today. They would call what you're talking about railroading. That's if you were to try to force, I guess, the characters down there. I I think it's totally silly. I when I tried that myself, I simply had that social contract with the players. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to do it right. Yeah. And if I didn't want to run something where you had to go to the dungeon or do the thing, I'd just be like, do whatever you want. Right. That was always my it's always say smart, tell your players if they're going to a tower, talk to them before they start the game. Hey, you're signing up to go to a tower, right? Or have some idea that they're signing up to go do something. So
Well,
when
and
they get there, they can't just go, oh, you want to know what? There's no reason to go to the tower. I guess we'll all just go home.
well, it depends how you're setting up the game. Is it a sandbox situation where the players are choosing where they're going, or if it's okay, this is what we're playing this week?
Yeah.
If the campaign is this is what we're playing this week, then the players just showing up are pretty much agreeing this is what we're playing this week. The
Yeah.
idea that you're doing a this is what we're playing this week campaign and still have to negotiate why are you actually going to play the game we're all here to show up for, it's a weird thing. If that's
I
the problem, then
yeah.
set up a sandbox. Okay, you got the ruined castle there, you got the dark forest there, and you've got the moors there. where are you going next week, and I'll have that ready for you. And but next week, that's where you gotta go because that's where you told me you were going.
You just did. I totally get you, and I'm very sympathetic to your view, which is just it's pretty much, is it a sandbox or is it something we're agreeing to do? And I think it's as simple as saying that this week we're playing sandbox, dude. You guys are leading the way, or this week we're doing this dungeon thing or the tower thing. Boom. I think it's simple. I agree with you. It should just be sort of simple and straightforward that players know if you're coming to go to the thing, go to the thing. Don't get to the thing and then tell me, you know what? We don't have a reason to be here. We're going home. It's like, well, okay, what are we doing? No, I totally agree with what you're saying on that end. And the pretend people being scared, it shocks me. I've been gaming a long time, but I can do things where people are just scared in the game. They really are. They'll be like, I don't want to take my character in there. I'm like, okay. but but hey, that's how the nerds are in our hobby. Let's go on to the next one, which is the grinding gear. You probably don't create, this is you. You probably don't create adventures and locations like this in your game. Although this adventure is now yours to do as you please. I ask that you consider not changing those elements which most clash with your gaming style. This is one of the very purpose of using published materials to take on different perspectives and styles than you would have on your own. This was your pitch to people going into the grinding gear.
That's 17 years old now, by the way.
Yeah. I don't expect like a whole speech around it, but do you want to talk about the grinding gear from 2009?
I had this idea of like a Tomb of Horrors, but for like beginner level characters. And it's like, okay, so why is this here? So I had to come up with a backstory, and I came up with some tricks and time wasters. And there is a final treasure to find in there.
Yeah.
But I will have to, I do have to say that at no point that I've ever run the grinding gear for anyone have they ever found the final treasure. Usually,
Was,
once
was
they
this sort of like an alternative to Tomb of Horror, like your take on sort of a version of Tomb of Horror?
well, playing in the same genre as Tomb of Horrors,
Yeah.
the death trap dungeon, that there's not a lot of combat. But most of every group that I've run through that were just happy to find the exit at the end and never found the final treasure. So again, that's for me, playtesting is not finding out that something works; it's finding out that something can work.
1,000,000% agreed. It's not that you need the group to find something. You just need to know if the group can find something. That's really your aim at the end of this run. But I just thought some of these things I'm just making sure to mention because I think people should be reminded that this work is out there. And I actually like your different take on Tomb of Horrors with the grinding gear. So it's just one of those things where I'm not expecting you to have like a speech ready for each one of these questions, but they're worth mentioning. And to me, if anybody wants to know who you are as a creator, right up until here you are, if they don't go back and check out this work, it's almost like not knowing how you think. And to me, it helps understand who you are. This is part of how I got to know you, right?
Or knowing how I did things. I mean, again, it's been 17 years. Even if I sat down to do the same sort of thing, a different thing would come out now.
Oh yeah. So well, all right, we'll move on to this. This is you. Realize they cannot win. They are doomed, and were doomed from the moment they got involved. Tell us about the monolith from Beyond Space and Time from 2012.
Okay, that was me wanting to do a very Lovecraftian adventure without using any of the usual Lovecraftian elements.
like,
Oh god,
yeah,
again, this is this is still from
it's old stuff. I'm digging up stuff where it's like fair enough, fair enough. I wasn't sure.
like you can find inside the monolith. You can find what's his guy's name, Carter Holmes, the head of Carter Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's see catch me off guard, but
It's okay, dude.
there's a head in a jar
Mm-hmm.
that that screams at you to eat his brains. And by eating his brains, you get some of his knowledge. Some of it, some of it is like spells, and some of it is his personality defects. And it's like that was my take on the Necronomicon. It's like there was no book that you read, but this guy eating his brain serves the same purpose.
That's a
And,
wild take.
and the idea of okay, the whole cosmic horror thing of Lovecraft is like, how do you do that in an adventure? So I've got an adventure location that has no map. You just think where you want to go, but if you don't know that's what it is, then you're just walking down. Every time I played that adventure, and I've played that adventure more than any other adventure in the catalog, because I knew this was so weird, I had to make sure that it did what I thought it was going to do. And it was all the same. Once people get into the monolith,
Hmm.
it's just this featureless white corridor. And they just walk and 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 walk until someone says, fuck this, we leave. We're going to turn around and go to the exit. And the
Hmm.
exit's right there because where they want to go is right there. And most people, once that happens, they're like, oh. And then they start experimenting. They start testing. And that's when the whole thing starts to open up. And it's like, okay, now we're playing the adventure. Because
See,
they'll start thinking, say, I want to go someplace where there's a weapon. Okay, we got this. I want to go there. Okay, here's what we're doing. And it's all there then. And that's it's like a lot of build up that just seems like random stuff. And then the monolith, which at first looks like nothing, and then boom, everything.
the more you're learning as you're playing it, the more everything starts coming completely together.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's old, I'm glad I was still asking you because that's a wild answer, right? So that's definitely not a waste of time.
Well,
Definitely
the
worth
fun
looking
thing about that is I hadn't started watching Doctor Who yet when I made the monolith from Beyond Space and Time. So when somebody
at.
told me
Wow.
you made an evil TARDIS because you actually can take control of the monolith and travel through space and time with it. And so it was, I had written it and started playing it in 2011. And so in 2012, I think it was before the release, I started watching Doctor Who, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
It all starts coming together. Like, I've already done this. Because somebody might think, were you inspired by Doctor Who? It's like, actually, no. That's actually the other way around. It's creating this is what made somebody mention this to me in the first
I mean,
place.
I'm sure I'd seen old Doctor Who on public television in the early
Oh
'80s
yeah.
or something, but that early Doctor Who didn't have a lot of TARDIS action. They
No.
didn't explore what the TARDIS was the same way
The
the
stuff in
modern.
early 2000s and that definitely explored the TARDIS deeply in their series. But yeah,
I,
I get what you're
I
saying.
mean, like there are some things like I'm thinking of the Tom Baker one, the one where the Centaurans invade Gallifrey. They do some TARDIS stuff, but that's so rare that's TARDIS is just pops up somewhere. We leave. Everyone gets out and goes, "Where are we now?" And that's it for the TARDIS. So
Well, all right. Let's see this one. I was thinking, should I or should I not ask it? But I will. Uh, yeah, yeah. Mr. James, are you able to turn your volume up on your mic at all?
oh shoot.
I mean,
Am
you sound okay to me, but some of the guys here are saying that you're a little slightly low.
uh,
It's okay either way. They just
yeah,
got to turn their.
I'm on a tablet and not how I usually
We're
do
fine.
these things. So yeah, that's
Totally, totally good. They can hear you if they strain.
or where I like if I move closer, it's like Am I louder now? I don't know. I don't even know where the microphone is on this thing. But yeah, I'm using a
I,
tablet.
I I think the problem is they're comparing you to me. I actually think you sound fine. They could turn up the volume. They could take care. They can hear you. I promise you that.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's move on to the
There's
next
no,
question,
there's
and don't
no,
worry about it.
yeah, there's no, yeah, there's no bar or anything to adjust the microphone. Sorry.
This is from an online comment related to this work. It's a Raggi adventure, and that means there's a death trap involved. The god that crawls.
Mhm.
If you want to talk about that.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that every old D&D adventure had a death trap. They all did. So I didn't invent the idea of putting a death trap in these things.
No. I think it's just more like the way it came across to me when I read the comment was more like it's not that you invented it, but it's that you use them maybe often. Maybe that's what the commenter was saying, that you use a lot of death traps in your work. I'm not sure. Maybe that's up to you to decide. But let's talk about the god that crawls.
Mhm. Um, oh, what was the idea of that one? Is just I. How do you set up a chase adventure where something's chasing you? And that's it. Everything. When I come up with an adventure idea, it's like, what's the central experience that I want, and then I build an adventure out around it. So having that experience makes sense. And
The-
this one was I wanted a chase. So like how do you do it? That's how I did it.
Okay, fair enough. That's a straightforward one. So if people want to know about your take on sort of chasing or chases, any rules or anything that you made towards that type of concept?
It was just the the god that crawls, the thing that's chasing them around, moves kind of slow. So characters, if they're not encumbered, they can move much faster. But then there are all sorts of little bits that tempt the players into slowing down and stopping. Oh, here's this marker on the wall. We know that that marker means there's treasure behind this wall. That means we got to knock this wall down. That's going to take time and make noise. And so that creates a
It's like
decision.
that constant threat of a wandering monster or something where you can't just stand still. I get what you're saying. That's you turn the sort of wandering monster gimmick into a one monster chasing the group, and they can't just that makes a lot more sense. Okay, next. Sexual acts. Tell us about Better Than Any Man from 2014.
Okay, better than 2013, I think it first
Or,
came.
or 13, I apologize about that.
That was, oh boy, that turned into quite a big thing. It's basically my wanting to really go hard into the historical setting. It's 30 years war Germany, just before the Swedish army is about to sweep through. So I could do whatever I want and just say it's all going to get wiped out by the Swedes, so I could have as many magic and monsters as I want. And the fact that the Swedes come through and wipe everything out is why we don't remember it in history.
Yep.
But yeah, the idea of the the coven of witches deciding we've had enough of war, we're taking over this town, and there's not going to be any war. But one of them is corrupt, and all sorts of stuff is bubbling below the surface, and just all sorts of nonsense. It's a mini sandbox campaign with a time limit. So no one's going to be able to explore all of it. They just decide they get a couple chances to decide where to go, and then they need to get out of the way of the Swedes.
So
And
basically, the adventure is like an hourglass type of thing. You
yeah,
start the timer and then just see what you can do in that time.
and the stakes of the adventure, because the Swedes are going to wipe everything out. It's like there's no threat to the countryside or the world that's going to last. But the question is, can the players gain anything for themselves in this situation? They because there are dungeons and monsters and treasure, it's not exactly they're not exactly looters in a proper real world sense, but it's the same spirit. Everything's going to hell. Can we
Yeah, but you
profit off this situation and get the hell out of Dodge?
can. It's a wild take, a wild take. Okay. Magic seems to be something you give a lot of attention to as it relates, say, to like Lamentation of the Flame Princess. So, spells inspired by song titles. Tell us about Vaginas Are Magic and Eldritch Cock.
Okay. Yeah, the idea is for free RPG day, and so is
Yeah.
Better Than Any Man. And when I put stuff out for free RPG day, I wanted them to be like full products, not little teasers, little crappy things that are disposable advertisements. I wanted them to be things that people wanted to keep. And Vaginas Are Magic was insane because I was giving away a hardcover book. In
Wow.
Eldritch Cock, I was giving away a full color hardcover book for free RPG day. And then free RPG day told me I couldn't participate anymore because my products were bothering some people.
Oh my. That's
I mean, I
disappointing.
was I was going all out on these things. Yeah, I was, and I decided for Vaginas Are Magic, the gimmick was going to be that these are spells only women can cast. Why? Gimmick, fun gimmick. And someone I knew, or we did a photo shoot for the cover. It's an actual photograph for the cover for one of the characters that had been in the
Mm.
art. And it was just a list of spells where every list of spell, it was just excuse me, sorry, just spells where every spell was named after a heavy metal song, and
Awesome.
it introduced a new magic system that works with the old magic system, but it created the possibilities of miscasts and fouling things up. And that's what Vaginas Are Magic was. Eldritch Cock was the idea that, well, I did the magic for the women. Here's magic only men can cast. But then
Adjusted that.
I adjusted that because it's like, well, I don't have any good ideas for male magic. So it'll just be the gimmick for the cover with the rooster on fire, and the back cover promo text was just a bunch of double entendres, and then just spells.
I actually think that was the right move because I've never had to, like, I liked what you did with the Vaginas of Magic, so I had no issue with it. When the idea that was only going to be for men was like, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that is not exactly what you did, I was like, I think that's the right move, especially in a hobby where you definitely want to attract definitely more women into the hobby. I
Well,
thought that
I
would be
know
more appealing. Yeah.
that wasn't the concern though.
Oh no, of course.
I'm not concerned about who's going to like it. It's just what's the idea that appeals to me. What's the idea I have that I can follow through to the end and work it, and then whoever likes it likes it.
See,
That
that's my disappointing is they cut you off from it. To me, this whole hobby is about creativity, and to smother it in any way, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. To smother it to me always didn't make sense, and I like the idea that we have adults in the hobby too, and there's sort of a mature side of the gaming or the way you want to see it, and then there's young people, and those can be separate. And it's like there's a guy named Grim Jim. You probably know exactly who I'm talking about, but he does like he used to do the topless sessions where he had like porn stars on doing like gaming. Uh, I heard some people give him heat over doing that, where I was like, no, not me. I welcome anything in the hobby. I think it's all open door for creativity, ideas, whatever you bring in. I don't care how wild it is, but like you said, you like it first, and then you just hope other people like it. And that's the most you can put out there. It's sort of sad to hear they cut you off in that process because
Well, I
that's
have
some
been
great material.
causing problems for them, I guess, ever since Better Than Any Man in 2013 when I first participated, because I put the 18 plus marker on the cover there to let people know, but there were people upset about things in the adventure. It was, and I remember the story that somebody went to one of the participating stores and asked about it, And they were told, yeah, we threw that out. We can't give that out. And they went behind the store and dug them out of the copies out of the dumpster.
That
That's
that
like,
is bad. See, I like your ideas. I mean, I really do like your chase idea. I know you're using Wandering Monsters, but you're using some unique ideas in the concept. When you get to the magic here, you start changing how the thing functions. It's like, to me, if I'm someone who's creative, like another DM or something in the hobby, I want to. It's like, okay, you might have some out there ideas, but then you have these magic gimmicks of how the magic works, and to me, it's like, was a nerd. That's really the secret sauce he's putting in there, and you should pay attention to it if you care about mechanics. Not that you always have to, but mechanics are definitely part of what we do.
yeah.
And it's like, I see the mechanical experimentation that you're doing on top of the creativity that's layered on top of this thing. And it just seems like people were going, they're looking at the names or the titles, and they're missing out on the creativity that you're putting into this new magic system. And that gets missed. That's a sad thing.
Yeah, well, the way I figure it, I mean, you go to the movies and they've got, in American terms, rated G and PG-13 and rated R, and it's all there, and you choose. It's there
Yeah.
for you to choose. You go to Amazon, there's all sorts of stuff, books, movies, and music. Go to the record store, you've got kid-friendly stuff, and then you've got stuff that's not kid-friendly, and it's all there. And I don't understand why role playing is somehow more restricted than any other form.
I can't see it being that. Like, to me, it was so disappointing when I heard him talk about slavery. As if I don't promote slavery at all, but like, say, Conan. We both like Conan. Conan is a sort of basis of there's some bad activity related to slavery going on in the story. To me, I would never do anything to support any type of nonsense, but it's my point of creativity should have no limits that you're really putting on it. And when I heard they started bugging that out, I started thinking back to what you're saying here, where you got cut off as well for being a little out there, putting ideas out there. I'm like, look, uh, I would say this is, as long as we're not all promoting some really bad behavior as good, then everything should be on the table. That's my take, right? I mean, I think there is a common sense limit. If a book came out going, this good slavery is good, and we should teach this to people in modern time, I'd be like, no, 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 calm down, dude.
Well, if you're doing that, it's then you're not really doing a fictional work.
Yep, exactly. And so,
It's
yeah,
it's something else. If your creativity, I mean, because there are some people that see, I this is a complicated thing, but
okay,
there's a difference between just exploring and playing around with ideas and actually advocating for those ideas.
yeah,
Like, if you're going to do a setting where there is slavery and the players are not expecting to be challenging the system, that's like, okay, that's the setting. That's what we're dealing with. That's showing everything's freaking horrible. This is a unpleasant place to be.
yeah.
How are you going to survive? And if you're deciding that, well, we have to make it the way we want the real world to be, then you're not playing the game. You're not playing the game. You're playing some other game. It's it's
In
frustrating.
their mind, they think you're promoting this, and this the sad part. That's sort of what you get accused of, like you're promoting bad ideas. Which in reality, when you dig down deep, it's like, no, I'm not. It's You're never promoting bad ideas. You're saying, look, it's a little out there, but it's not like the aim of this is what I'm actually promoting. It's just creativity without limits,
Yeah,
right?
because I'm thinking like the movie Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. That's basically a, I don't want to say it's non-judgmental, but it essentially is just following a serial killer around. In the narrative of the movie, and it's not the it's like it's not judging him in ways that most movies judge bad guys. It's just showing what he's doing, and there's no good guy that wins in the end. And so people had a real problem with it when that came out. I remember the quote from the director, who I can't remember who it was, um, but he was at one of the first screenings and someone came up to him and said, "Man, you can't do that." Just did, you know. Or in the 80s, I think, was it the 80s? There was a German movie called Necromantic. The movie was
Hmm.
about the movie was about this couple that introduces a corpse into their bedroom. And I might be mixing up the plot of the first and second ones here, but the woman decides she likes the corpse better and so kicks the guy out. And
Oh
it's
my.
and, and I saw this more than 10 years ago at a film festival here in Finland, and they brought in the director, and they were telling the story that when the movie first came out, it was banned in Finland. So whoever was organizing a film festival at that time organized a ferry trip to go for a bunch for people in Finland to go see the movie in Estonia. Yeah, 2 hour ferry ride.
That's amazing. It's
and
amazing.
and it's like, again, that that movie doesn't portray the necrophilia as bad. It's just showing it, and you're freaked out because you know this is fucked up, but the movie is not telling you this is fucked up. The movie is showing a woman that's really into it. It's just
I get it. It's letting you explore something strange, which is part of what you do with art.
yeah, yeah.
Is explore strange things, and sometimes you might not even present it as not even presenting it as bad. It's just presenting it. It's
Mm.
interesting in some weird way, and it's like just I'll let you, the onlooker, decide however you want to take that in. But it's not like you're just saying it by the end of the movie. It's like, yeah, here's a little add-on. We think we should go out and do this in life. No, it's just here's a story, man, and it's very creative and it's weird, interesting, and you shouldn't even have to put a qualifier to it. It's just like, look, definitely, like you said, there's ratings on movies, and that's appropriate, right? To say this is not made for young people, but it's like, yeah, I totally agree. There shouldn't be no limitations to a degree. I think criticism is fine. Actually, I think it's quite acceptable. But the second you say that's banned, I'm like, okay, dude, you've lost the plot. You are confused because everything will end up in the shadows anyway, being heard sooner or later. And I'd rather everything be out in the public domain, just so we can always discuss it. And if somebody did come up with a bad idea because of something, it's like, well, let's discuss it there because anything that ends up in the shadows usually has no counter. That's about bad about putting things in the shadows because you don't get a counter to it. There's a lot of people out there that believe nonsense nowadays because it's censored, but that means there's nobody arguing against these bad ideas. So by the time you hear about them, you're hearing about them unrestrained. It's like, oh, anyway. Good. That's controversial. So we'll move on to something a little bit. You were talking about it already. Here's you. Mindless killing machines on the level of rabid animals. And that intelligent foes should never be a mere random encounter. Tell us about the random esoteric creature generator.
It was one of the problems I've had for a long time about D&D is that the creature generator was made before I created my own company and my own game line. This was intended to be used with other OSR games and with D&D. And the problem I had with D&D is that everyone knew the monsters in the monster manual. You see a troll, you know, okay, they regenerate. We need to use fire on them. It's an automatic response.
Hmm.
And it's even worse when you pretend it's not. It's like, oh, we have to pretend we don't know what these trolls are. So let's try these other things before we get to the fire, and so we can justify using the fire. It's like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this level of pretend, or so new monsters. Always new monsters. Don't use anything fresh out of the book. And that was the idea of the creature generator. You can just, pretty quickly just generate a monster, 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 monster. and
Mm.
most of them will be normalish, and then there's a possibility they're going to be like really, really strange. But that was just the
There-
idea because the people people would see the D&D standard monster manual monster and go into automatic Batman mode. I know how to deal with that.
So you like the idea of using this to trip people up, give them such bizarre monsters that you can't just find the monster manual. They'll be like, well, what do I do here?
Well,
Figure it out.
isn't the point of a monster? You're going into the unknown, and then here's this strange beast that you don't know what it is. That that creates a much different atmosphere just immediately. That maybe this is something we can just stick a sword in a couple times and it falls down, or maybe it's going to turn us all into puddles of goo. We don't know because they're
It worked for me. I shocked quite a few players with that system right there that you have there. They were like, "What?" I mean, in some cases, like you said, it can be somewhat like, "Okay, that's a monster." Then in some cases, it's like, "What is that in D&D, dude?" No, well, sort of. It's a generator making the monsters of players be completely out there. But I did like the bizarre reaction. I like how it put players back. It got them in a weird mindset because it wasn't typical and it wasn't clean. And
every
a lot of them weren't meant to be these type of overthinking monsters. They were like what you said. They're there to fight. They're there to kill. A lot of them are mindless or sort of feel like that. They're going to come at you and kill them. That's sort of the way you're going to generate these things. I loved it. I love tripping up players with the craziness. And sometimes even like I would just go with it. Whatever I rolled up, I'd just be like, okay, sure, let's do that. And I put it in there, and they'd just be like, well, are we in D&D? Is this D&D? I'm like, yeah, it's D&D. And then I show them the generator afterwards, and they'd be like, man, that's unfair. I'm like, no, it's not. They'd be like, that's unfair.
it's like what well that is a divide. What is D&D? Is it all of these elements and all of these tropes and all of these expectations, or is it a process of play?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
big question.
yeah. No, I'm more in the play zone with you. That's why I like that creativity. Okay, let's. Here's an important question. This is not completely game related, but this is something I know you've dealt with, especially recently. What price have you paid for your stance on free speech and free expression in the tabletop role playing game hobby?
um well, I've been shut out of a lot of the polite circles. I basically I don't my views and my tolerances don't map to any existing specific group. So I've got no in group to defend me or to use as a shield for me. And
Yeah.
everyone, the past 10, 12 years, people are looking at all sorts of creative endeavors as like culture battleground. And we've got to promote these values and we've got to get rid of these bad people and blah 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 blah. And I'm more like, eh? It's like you like what you like, and other people are going to disagree with you. And in a creative space, you're going to have a lot of people that don't fit in. Why are we pretending that that anyone can actually win this battle, and so everyone is going to agree and have the same values, and then we'll all skip off to the promised land if the bad people will just stop existing. I don't know. I don't know because I was bored at Gen Con, back at the hotel. So I look at RPG Net and think, oh my god, these people are all just wacko lefties. How do they think the world works? Then I log on to the RPG site and think, these people are all insane right wing weirdos. How do they think the world works? I don't. I'll have some ideas that will fit more into one side, but other ideas that fit in more with the other. So nobody's happy with me because if they happen to first encounter me because of the idea we have in common, they have that feeling of betrayal then when they think that I'm in league with the enemy on some other issue. And it's okay.
That is
Okay.
something I have found, sadly, in this hobby. There seems to be tribes or people taking teams or sides. Though I would say there is, I think, a silent majority out there of the people that are quiet or don't comment that you don't hear from, that are people that are, at least when I encounter them and talk to them, and they're not as loud, they're not as at least tribal, but there is a lot of tribal thing where it's like you say 5% of what they don't agree with, you're out of that group. But guess what? You also say 5 or 10% of what they don't agree with. So now you're out of that group. And everyone hates you for one reason or another, and you don't fit in the box. Like if somebody's like, well, here's my tribe. Well, dude, 5% of what there's definitely 5% of what I believe will not fit in your box. And that's in all cases. And it seems to be sad that nowadays you have to be more like a yes man to a degree in some circles to be able to be accepted by the audience of the group or whatever. Have you lost friends, like personal friends or anything over your stance on this stuff?
Well, I like in person, not so much. But then I'm not the biggest in person social butterfly. But a lot of people I was friendly with stopped being friendly with me. And it's not even that they disagree with me, it's that being associated with me is going to cost them all these other friends of theirs. And it's going to, they don't, they're not willing to have a hard time in their life on my behalf. And it's like I can't blame them for that, but I can blame the situation that makes them make that decision.
See, that'd be the one part I criticize them on. It's not, to me, it'd be less about sticking up for you and more about like, hey guys, do you have principles? And if they said yeah, I'd be like, well, isn't well then is it less, shouldn't it be that you should be okay with this and talk to
But
this guy based on principles, not based on protecting James?
this is their game. This is their
Yeah.
their free time, their spare time. This is not the important part of their life. This is what they're doing to escape from the important part of their life. Why do they have to put that weight on their fun time? So I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah. Oh, no
But
debate. I hear you. In some areas, like you say, it's like it's not that big of a fight here, in your opinion. So you're not going to hold it against them for choosing to not be principled in this area of life.
it's their happy fun time. They don't need the stress. It just happens to be my life. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like you're saying it sucks, but like it is what it is.
yeah. I can't.
Right.
It's like make gaming where you plant your flag and fight your final battle, and most people are like, "Are you fucking nuts?" I go, "Lie."
I totally get you. Okay, okay. At least we covered that. I know this is separate. I didn't want to mention these two things at the same time because I know subjects are not exactly the same. But let's talk a little bit about your history with Zach Smith.
Okay.
And I know you're going to go into that. And I want to know at the end of that, given his recent victory in court, would you consider working with Zach Smith now going forward?
Yeah, I'm already working with him, and I've got no reason to change that as far as
Cool.
I'm concerned right now. So yeah, that's easy.
Mhm. So, what is your history with Zach Smith exactly?
As far as I know, and again, this is a long time ago, I may be misremembering, but how I remember him entering the gaming space is he seemed to be excited about Death Frost Doom. And he starts his blog and he writes about Death Frost Doom and he starts joining the blog community.
Mhm.
And with the playing D&D with porn stars blog, and immediately that's attention getting because well, that's not the usual type of person that's into these games. Especially at the time with the OSR, it's a bunch of old potbelly,
It's not the advertised type of person you
We
expect to
ain't
be playing
gotten any
D&D.
younger or less potbelly, let me tell you.
That's true.
Um, but you know, and so the idea is like, here's a guy that you know he's an accomplished artist in his own right, but then has this social circle of porn stars, and they're playing the games, and that introduces a dynamic that makes people uncomfortable because in early days there were attempts to create professional associations and advocacy associations for the OSR. So it's like, well, what do we do about the porn guy? Do we to acknowledge him is going to bring criticism from outside, because one thing a lot of people in the RPG space are afraid of, or they're wary of, is negative publicity, because a lot of us are still around that remember the Satanic Panic days, and a lot of people would do anything to avoid that kind of negative mainstream attention again.
Mhm.
So here's someone showing up hanging out with all the porn stars, and some people are like, oh, that could be trouble.
I have a little bit of an opposite take when it comes to that. I actually think leaning into it in the long run, not in the short term. I get why people might have been afraid because of the history, but it's like in the long run, I think it'd be good to lean into something rather than lean away from it. And because to me, it's what changed D&D with WotC is it became more socially acceptable. And I found it grew the audience and the community and the customers almost right away when now the cool kid can play the game without being called a nerd or a loser or something like that, or some type of
Was
certain
that
reputation.
happening in 2008, 2009?
Oh, well, sort of, yeah, but definitely, to me, it's I looked at the Zach Smith thing like as like I get the controversy out there, but that's sort of the cool kid gimmick, isn't it?
So I
Him,
got the impression that it really started picking up a lot more widespread mainstream acceptance. Like it was Critical Role and then Stranger Things. Like Critical Role,
Matt Mercer's group, and no, totally 100% agree. Yep, yep.
that those came along years after Zach showed up on the scene. So
But they play into the image people want to have, and not the controversial image that Zach was already bringing to the table. I'm just saying, Zach brought a different side of the cool. If you get what I'm saying, the cool kid gimmick. It's like here's the guy hanging out with the hot chicks, right? And this is in D&D. But I get what you're saying. At the time, it's like you're still looking back at the Satanic Panic. See, I'm in Canada, and I say, like many other people I've talked to in different parts of the world, I bet you've encountered this where you're at, is outside of the States, a lot of places were never affected by the controversy that was the Satanic Panic. Like in Canada, I'm from a Catholic family. I knew many Christians that played the game. Our families never brought that up to us. Even with the movie coming out, it never got brought up to us. I asked people in like a different parts of the EU who played the game, when the Satanic Panic was going on, did that affect you? And they'd be like, wasn't even mentioned. Like even with the movie out and everything, it was almost barely mentioned. That was big news, but I found that to be more effectively big news in the States than it was outside of the States.
there were some issues in Europe with that though, because I know like all the black metal guys,
Mhm.
um, in the church burning and murder phase of that in the early '90s.
Oh yeah, I
Those
know.
guys were all role players. Those guys were all role players, and one of the reasons they got into the Satanism in the first place was because of all the people warning them about the satanic influence of heavy metal and role playing games. They went cool, and it's they had the cult role playing game had problems where it was seen as a destructive influence on youth, and I think it was actually brought up in the Swedish parliament as a problem, and that
Wow,
caused a lot of mainstream outlets to back away from role playing games.
that I did not know. That's well, that's well, you lifted some of my ignorance there. I just here in Canada, I remember when I was young when I started hearing about it. Like I heard about it probably maybe a little bit after it started, like in '88 was when it finally started getting drilled at me. It's like I asked my family, "Do you have an issue with it?" No, and I just never encountered. I'm just saying, where I was, we have a large community here in a place called Nova Scotia, Canada. We get about 40 to 50,000 people for a thing called HalCon. It's pretty big, and it's a lot of tabletop role playing games go on there. We've had these sort of get-togethers for years. I used to be part of a gaming group that was up to like 5,000 people. It was like sort of military, Navy, and stuff like that, and then people from the outside. And never heard of anything satanic panic until I got to the internet. That's when people started telling me, "Oh, did you hear about the satanic panic?" I sort of heard about it, but it's like it never affected my gaming. And I talked to some people from the EU I was just gaming with. They like, "Yeah, we game. We never had it mentioned to us." I was like, "Oh," but I guess like you say, in some parts, it's still thriving. But anyway, let's move on to something else. Uh, LOTF, uh, Lamentation of the Flame Princess, became more than a vehicle for your own work. You published a lot of other creators, and some of those books became major parts of Lamentations of the Flame Princess identity. What do you look for when somebody puts an adventure in front of you? What makes you say, I want my company to publish this?
Uh, well, does the thing excite me? Does it have some idea that makes me go, ooh? that that's basically it. Um, sometimes it's
So it's basically just something has to woo you when you go to read it. Something has to stick out to you. Are you looking for people that are a little out there like yourself with ideas that will just say whatever they think fits the thing?
a lot of
Or
people I work with are very mild mannered people. They're not public facing, and they you know their personalities and what they write you wouldn't ever connect them.
I believe that. Yep. I 100% believe that. 100%. Okay, well that's clear, straightforward. I wasn't sure if you had some more thoughts on that. I just wanted to make sure. So if anybody ever wanted to write in your direction, it really is just about getting something to stick out for you. It's quality, right? Or something in that vein. I mean, just to clarify. So if anybody ever wants to write for you, they just need to come up with a gimmick that impresses you. Simple as that. Okay. All right. We're almost to the last question, but before we get there, how a referee should run a game. Tell us about Don't Fuck the Priest.
Oh, don't fuck the priest. That's it came out a couple years ago. It's a boxed adventure set. It's got a deck of cards and custom dice. It's a randomly generated dungeon, but the gimmick is that the dungeon in the game is reforming itself around the players because the
Yeah,
dungeon itself is like a living fungal hive mind that's studying humans by observing the behavior of the adventurers moving through the dungeon.
that's awesome.
And
So,
there's different
yeah,
factions because to 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 create the facsimile of a dungeon, it has to create like individual beings in the dungeon to encounter the players. So what's happening as they're forming these individual beings are starting to be individuals away from the hive mind. So there's different factions starting to form within the hive mind.
that's such an interesting take. I get it. It's like you're taking a video gamey type of thing, but you're turning it into something real. By these people are being created not by some guy called the Dungeon Master above, but something in the world's actually creating this real thing. It's part of the gimmick, but you've made the gimmick real. Like these aren't just things the DM is putting in or a video game is putting in. This is something part of a hive mind that these people are really being created through the process. Did you?
And
I
as
see. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and like in the beginning, the dungeon's completely random. But as the players go through and encounter certain things and learn certain other things, they start being able to have choices. Like it's like, okay, now you get to choose which one of these cards is going to determine the next passageway. And if players remember, oh yeah, I remember that one that had that feature, and but that one no, and they can make a decision. We didn't like that. Let's try that new thing. And so they start having actual choice until hopefully they find a way out of this thing.
That sounds like such a unique idea. So I love it personally. That's why I wanted to make sure I brought that one up before we got to the final question I have for you. I think last year or something I have on my to-do list, pun intended, but we got an audience member saying they do have that on their to-do list to do. And it sounds so interesting, so amazing. I thought it was worth bringing up. But let's get to the last question. The luxury item. Tell us about your new Los Carcosa product. I want to
Okay,
hear
I
about
want to
this.
clarify that when I talk about role playing games as luxury items, I mean all role playing material. This is especially adults, which I think everyone watching this is going to be an adult.
Yeah.
It's like the role playing business is in the business of selling books to people to show them how to play pretend. The
Mhm.
entire thing is complete luxury. There's yeah, and especially now, the
Yeah.
physical versions are the luxury version. But
Yeah.
sometimes some fools like me take that a little further. So this is going to be, I'm told that the remainder of the print run of this book will be delivered to me on Wednesday, which means
That looks beautiful.
cross fingers, check the lotfp.com for confirmation on this, but I do believe that that means it'll be going on sale. Uh, not so we're live now, yeah. So not 2 days from now, but next week Sunday, this will go live on the LOTFP web store. Lost Carcosa. It's 464 pages, I do believe. It's got
Wow.
fold out posters on the inside, and
And that's like four full adventures or something in there all packed into that book, isn't it? Like
it's a setting book that covers
oh,
hundreds and
shit.
hundreds of miles.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's an expansion of the original edition of Carcosa. That the original Carcosa book covers a quadrant of Carcosa, and
Mhm.
the expanded parts here is another quadrant. So basically doubling the landmass of what's covered in here. Yeah, cover maps and poster maps inside the covers. Fancy cover material with foiled illustrations. 3 different covers. So yeah, that's our big thing coming out a week from Sunday from time
That
of.
does look awesome.
We also have slightly less fancy my own work,
Oh,
uh, The Ennui of the Deep Delving Dungeoneer. And this is 24 pages. That'll be on sale at the same time.
deep delving engineer. I actually have a note to ask you in addition to that. I'm glad you brought that up without me needing to bring that up.
And the last thing, we got a new T-shirt based
Oh,
on
wow.
metal cover design. Uh, uh,
Oh, that looks awesome, my dude.
Available right now from the LOTFP US web store. You can find it at lotfp.com. This is the whole Weird Crusher concept is based on the old Grind Crusher compilation from 1989 from Earache Records. So that's directly metal
Great, great
inspired.
way to support the company and get something awesome in return.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
available right now. So yeah, that's the new stuff.
good, good. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the interview there, James. First time us encountering each other. I hope I did an okay job on this. Still learning in the process. But yes, okay. Thank you, James. I appreciate it. For
Thank you.
now, for now, everyone, love you. Take care.